He may have told the EU exactly what he thinks of the Northern Irish backstop, but what the Prime Minister has yet to describe in detail is any new alternative. In an interview with ITV News today, Boris Johnson insisted there are already better ideas than keeping us in the customs union to prevent a hard border. They just haven't been argued for.
Can you give me one solution to the Northern Irish border that you'll be suggesting to the EU leaders that hasn't been suggested before?
Well, I don't think actually that many of the solutions that are available have been properly suggested before. They certainly haven't really been properly offered by the UK side. And of course, there are all sorts of trusted trader schemes, electronic pre-clearing and all the rest of it.
These have all been suggested before. They have been suggested before. They've been explored with the EU before.
None of them have been properly suggested by the UK. All we're saying to our friends and partners is it's time to remove that backstop, get rid of it, have a total backstopectomy, and I think then we can make progress.
You haven't come up with anything new in this interview. Are you saying then that perhaps Theresa May didn't make the case convincingly enough?
Yes, absolutely. Well, what I'm saying is that if you look at what the UK government was doing, it was basically reconciled psychologically, emotionally, intellectually to remaining within the customs union and within the orbit of EU law.
So tomorrow, the Prime Minister will try to strike a new deal, meeting the German Chancellor in Berlin before visiting President Macron in Paris on Thursday and trying to twist a few arms at the G7 summit on the weekend. But today, the President of the EU Council was unimpressed with the letter he received, saying the backstop is an insurance to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland unless and until an alternative is found. Those against the backstop and not proposing realistic alternatives, in fact, support re-establishing a border, even if they do not admit it.
Do you think they're overreacting then to say that you haven't got any other ideas and then actually you don't mind if there's a hard border?
No, I saw what President Tusk had to say, and I think it's a bit paradoxical that the EU side is talking about us putting up barriers or checks. We're not going to. We made it clear 1,000 times. We do not want to see any checks at the Northern Irish frontier at all. By contrast, it is the EU who currently claim that the single market and the purity of the single market requires them to have such checks. I don't think that's true.
My concern is whether the cost of our production is going to increase.
But with no agreement in sight, Labour continues to warn about leaving without one. Jeremy Corbyn meeting businesses today who have their own worries.
It's very unclear what the Prime Minister thinks he's negotiating. He needs to recognise that by just holding the threat of a no-deal Brexit on the 31st of October towards the European Union isn't going to bring about a change.
So while MPs are still on holiday, Brexit never takes a break. The government facing protest.
Stop Brexit!
Not just here, but in Europe.